This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli. Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Just a couple seconds ago, I was chatting with our producer, Tom, and he said, just FYI, we're starting up. And I go, do we have to? Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? All right, your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here, broadcasting 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. There's a link to all of your instructors on the website, USAPrepares.com, USAPREPARES.com. Podcasts are free. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. Tom is producing the broadcast. What a meetup last night. No kidding. At Ziggy's. That's our USA Prepares hangout during the week. Roy Birdsong was there. Judy Dollarhite, John Dollarhite, Ken Hurley, Dr. Howard Shayne, Dr. M.L. Shayne, Linus Ertley was there, Len Pence, so many others. Packed house. We learned about quail. Raising quail for food and eggs. And Dylan was there. Dylan Kahn, journalist. He's writing an investigative report, an article for the media about us, who we are, what we do, why we meet, the subjects that we cover. Now, imagine this, an investigative journalist doing a newspaper article on us, USAPrepares.com. He spent over 3 hours with us. He wasn't your typical TV reporter that comes in for a half an hour and is out of there, for the 11 o'clock news. No, No, he is writing a very thorough report. And we'll publish it. We'll publish it on the website, usaprepares.com. So you get a chance to see what the meetup looks like. We'll have some pictures, and you'll get a chance to see how funny looking we really are. Now, on the way to the meetup last night, I was listening to the radio, and I heard a talk show host. Now, I know this guy. He's out of the East Coast, and he absolutely trashed George Zimmerman. You know, the man that was beaten by Trayvon Martin? Now, George Zimmerman ultimately shot and killed Trayvon Martin. And this talk show host called George Zimmerman a moron many times. Now, the news reported that George Zimmerman threatened his wife with a gun. And this talk show host kept saying, over and over, that he's a moron. And I thought about this for about a nanosecond. I didn't believe a word of it. And I'm not kidding. I didn't believe a word of what I was hearing. George Zimmerman was a moron because, why? If any of our class was in George Zimmerman's position, we probably would have done what he did. If we were being pummeled by a spry, athletic young man, and we were middle-aged, and we had a gun, and we were losing, and we were on the ground bleeding, we probably would have pulled our gun and shot too, right? Okay. Well, the news was reporting that George Zimmerman, the police were called on him. His wife called the police because they said he threatened. She said George Zimmerman threatened her. And I didn't believe it because it's out of character for what we know of the real George Zimmerman. And on the way home from the meetup, about midnight last night, hours later, well, there really was no gun involved. And George Zimmerman's wife changed her story. There was no gun. There was no gun. So I just wanted to share that with you. So sometimes things that you hear in the news are not accurate. And talk show hosts sometimes make mistakes. Deborah Tavares is with us, and we're going to talk about smart meters. We're going to talk about stopping the spread and getting rid of them. We're going to spend 2 hours discussing the evil behind the smart meters, the attempt to control our lives through controlling energy, all energy. Welcome, Deborah Tavares.
Well, good morning, Vincent. Thank you so much for having me on this morning. We're going to talk about a number of source documents that talk about the weaponized use of frequencies. And we are under a massive assault with the declaration of war having been told us in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document. So for anyone that is listening that has not heard about the declaration of war and the things that you're going to hear us talking about this morning, you must go to stopthecrime.net and print all the source documents that you hear us discussing. You can also order a packet of source documents if you do not have the opportunity to download them from the internet for free. You can order them from us for printing cost and shipping, and you can call area code 707-586-9558. Again, area 707-586-9558. And you can order the packet that you're going to hear us discussing. Now, what I'd like to do first, Vincent, is start out with our baseline reality. I think everyone hopefully knows now that has been listening to this program that back in 1933, during the bankruptcy of the United States, the false bankruptcy of the United States to steal our gold, we were all expatriated. And what that meant is that everything about us was collateralized against the debt. We're talking about our sovereign American status was eliminated suddenly and without our knowledge or consent. And all our labor, our souls, our children, our property, sweat equity, and credit became the financial collateral for the public debt, which had to be converted into a public trust and which had been conscripted after the ancient Roman trust. Now, to get into more detail of what you're hearing me talk about right now and to understand the history that has been intentionally withheld from us, you need to go to stopthecrime.net, scroll down on the home page to the USA Inc. flag, and this aspect of this conversation you can download. One of the documents is called The Great American Adventure, Secrets of America. And you will understand, of course, back in 1929, the Great Depression was completely staged. It was a hoax, and it was concocted by Rothschild, the Rockefeller banking empires, the Queen, and British Parliament, the U.S. President and Congress, the Vatican, and numerous elite families to steal America's gold. So at that time, we were then identified as enemies of the state. Very important to thread this through everything you're going to hear over the next 2 hours. We are enemies of the state. We have been seized. Major banks and mega corporations are posing as a legitimate U.S. government, and they are not. We have been seized, and we have been betrayed. We have been put in an illusion of 4th of July, flying our flags, eating apple pie and hot dogs. It is a fraud. We have been corralled through our thinking. In fact, in the source documents that we will be going over, the Silent Weapons document talks about their victory. Their victory over us is our lack of knowledge, and from our lack of knowledge, our consent. And that is exactly what has occurred. Now, it's more than that because it's been a very covert stealth plan that has been set up on us, along with the fact that we have every aspect of our intake, our air, water, food supply, vaccines, everything has been weaponized. We have cancer cures that are hidden in the Rothschild Institute. Why do they allow cancer? It's a depopulation mechanism as well as a big pharma money-making scam. We are being harvested. We are being destroyed. Our children are being murdered every day, and it's amping up. And what the smart meters, the cell phone towers, the antennas, the Wi-Fi, the cell phones, all of the wireless gadgetry that we are now addicted to is weaponized frequencies. And under the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars technical manual, this is a silent weapons attack on global society. It is fingerprintless. Now, for those of you that want more detail on the smart meters than what you may hear this morning, you can go to stopthecrime.net, and on the home page, scroll down. I gave a talk to the Oath Keepers, and I very, very meticulously connect all the dots with how the change out of your original analog electric meters that have always been on our homes, that the meter readers have always read and then reported our monthly usage, and then we get a bill from our utility companies on how much electricity we have been using. Now, of course, all this is being replaced with wireless communication technologies. And what they never, ever told us was that ultimately we would all, every single one of us, be required to replace all of our appliances with those that have RFID chips in them for direct and individual communications with the smart meter that is the collection device on the outside of our homes. We were also never told about the combined increase of artificial frequencies in our neighborhoods from this smart grid mesh network that is now being set up globally and in the United States. We were never told that the microwave radiating frequencies have been reported in military documents as weapons. They use these weapons against their enemies. Now, we've established we're enemies of the state. This is why the utility companies call these smart meters a deployment. This is a military deployment upon all of us. Remember this. We are enemies of the state. Now, what do
Deborah
we do?
Tavares, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're going to break. We're coming right out in a couple minutes. Class, don't touch that dial. This is USAPrepares.com. Class, Deborah Tavares is with us, and you can get to her website, stopthecrime.net, stopthecrime.net. And we're talking about silent weapons, and I just want to share with you, if you're wondering what we're talking about, we're going to go for 2 hours today on this topic. Here are some of the symptoms. And I'm willing to bet that almost every single one of you has experienced these symptoms. Short-term memory loss, inability to focus, eye pain, dizziness, disorientation. Add to that the rash of suicides and depression. That's what we're talking about. Those are just a few of the symptoms that we're talking about. Deborah, please continue.
Absolutely, Vincent. As a matter of fact, the symptom list for Wi-Fi and frequencies, that would also include the geoengineering, the overhead aerial spraying program, that with HAARP is increasing the frequencies that are in our upper atmosphere. You can download the flyer with all of the symptoms on the homepage of stopthecrime.net. Right at the very top, it will talk about microwave radiation and the flyer. So the symptoms, frequency and Wi-Fi symptoms. Download that flyer and distribute it to everyone you know. This is a silent weapons for quiet wars attack upon our society. They are eliminating us. They are murdering us. It is fingerprintless. Now, I know what you're going to hear is going to sound insane. It is because it is an insane program of massive attack. And it's important to understand where the desire for this control of energy using the smart meters started. It started in the 1930s, and it was hatched then, because in the silent weapons document you will see that they say energy, control of energy, is the key of global control. So in the 1930s, they hatched a plan. They called it technocracy. It's a word that people can't spell, hardly can pronounce, but here's what technocracy means. It means that they must get all distribution of energy resources under their control. All energy must be monitored and measured in order for a total new world order, a one-system takedown to work. Very important that the government is seizing control of all energy resources with the assistance of scientists, engineers, and technicians. And again, they want to monitor every facet of our lives, personal and civic lives, our economic life, our social and political, and which one political party or one group maintains total control. Now, people say, well, I have nothing to hide. Why should I care if I'm monitored? Here's why you'll need to care. Because the massive 1 million square foot data collection center in Bluffdale, Utah, along with the overhead aerial spraying program, has dumped sensors on and into each and every single one of us, including our pets. Now, the plan is this, to be able to electronically control us remotely with frequencies. Now, this sounds bizarre, but take a look at some of the predictive programming movies that are out that you're watching. Go to dataasylum.com. That's D-A-T-A asylum, ASYLUM.com. Look at the movie clips on that website and understand they are going for complete and absolute mind theft. Most of you have probably heard about UN Agenda 21 and how it's now, of course, renamed Future Earth, how it's stealing all of our private property, our real estate. We have land thefts happening all over the world, and in the United States, farmers and ranchers are having their land stolen by a myriad of fines, penalties, and regulations by the Fish and Game, by the U.S. Forestry. All of those agencies are corporate agencies of the mother corporation USA, Inc. Everything is run by contracts and grants. We have been taken, and in order to survive, we must identify the weapons that are going to kill us. And I don't say that lightly. You need to go.
Hold that thought. Class, Deborah Tavares is with us, and she's been talking about Agenda 21, Future Earth. And Deborah, and you've been mentioning that farms are threatened, we're threatened. I just want to mention that Mark Baker from Michigan, he's a USAprepares.com instructor. He has been threatened with a $700,000 fine if he doesn't kill his 70 pigs. He said no. He's an Air Force retiree, 20 years. He said nope, he is not going to kill his livelihood. He is not going to go bankrupt because the government wants him to kill his livelihood, his animals, his family. And some of us at USAprepares.com are going to see him this weekend. There's a rally in Indiana, and information's on the website. So a lot of our instructors will be there. We will be speaking. The Dollarhide family will be speaking about how they've been threatened in the past for raising rabbits with a $6 million fine. And they said no, and they faced down the U.S. government. So here we are. We're talking about threats to us, serious threats, and we're talking about silent weapons. Deborah, please continue.
Well, absolutely, Vincent. As a matter of fact, there's no way that we, the enemies of the state, can win in any court battle because the courts, all of the judges have all been put in place to benefit the agendas of the silent weapons program. So our only response to all of this must be non-compliance. And you need to know why you must not comply. You need to understand because we are enemies of the state. And war was declared in the late 40s through the silent weapons system. Again, that was fomented by the U.S. Air Force, by the international bankers, by Rockefeller and Harvard University in the late 40s. And then, in 1954, the silent weapons became a policy at the very first Bilderberg meeting in the Netherlands. And a silent weapons system, as defined by the silent weapons, is unbelievable. They say that the public can't comprehend this even being a weapon, and therefore they can't even believe that they're being attacked or subdued by a weapon. Believe it. When you hear what Vincent just said about these farmers and ranchers being fined and penalized and told what they can or can't farm, this is all part of the silent weapons system. And they talk about in this silent weapons 44-page document how the public might instinctively feel that something is wrong, but because of the technical nature of the silent weapons system, we can't express our feelings in a rational way or handle the problem with intelligence. And therefore, we don't know how to cry for help, and we don't know how to associate with others to defend ourselves against it. Now, this is because we have been framed in lack of education. We have been enslaved by lack of education and lack of knowledge. This is intentional. And it says in the silent weapons document, they will rewrite our history, and they have, because none of us were aware that we were collateralized, called and named enemies of the state, and had a war set forth upon us in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and that our expenditures for this massive war machine, this gathering of personal, private intelligence from kids out of college or going into college, have been harvested for their knowledge to create weapons that they thought were going to help defend us and make a better world. But instead, all these weapons now are being aimed at us. We are the enemies of the state. And now with the increased level of technology, most of us, again, don't know how to cry for help because we're being massively attacked. This is a very, very well thought out plan. They go on to talk about in the silent weapons program that when it's a system that is, when it's applied gradually, the public adjusts and adapts to its presence and learns to tolerate its encroachment on their lives until the pressure becomes too great, both psychological and economic, and then we crack up. And we see increased levels of emotional behavior, increased levels of mental illness. And in this document, it talks about the use of Ritalin for our children. Remember, this was back in the 40s that this was created. They knew that they were going to destabilize the economy and create fractured families. That has been the goal. We have been completely besieged. Again, we started out the show talking about how everything is weaponized, our weather, our air, our food, our medical care, which is not care at all. It is a sick care to earn big profits for big pharma. Everything has been carefully planned. And a silent weapons system, as also described in the silent weapons document, is a type of biological warfare. They say that it attacks our vitality, our options, and our mobility of the individuals of a society because it knows, understanding, it can manipulate, attacks our sources of natural and social energy, our physical, mental, and emotional strengths and weaknesses. And that is exactly what has happened. And back in the 40s and 50s, they discussed all of the ways in which they were going to track and monitor us. And before one of the last breaks, I talked about the fact that many people are not concerned about being tracked and monitored because they don't feel that they have done anything wrong. You need to understand the tracking and monitoring takes on an entirely new definition. We are being imprisoned, and the levels of lockdown are fingerprintless, predominantly with all the cameras that we see on the streets. Everybody needs to watch this movie called Cabin in the Woods. You need to watch the movie Paintball so that you understand what computer programmers look like when they can look from their computer programming hubs, their underground bunkers, and use weapons and attack us on the streets up above. Watch these two movies, Cabin in the Woods and Paintball, to get an understanding that this is such a Luciferian attack by inbred psychopaths that have waged the most gruesome war upon humanity, that knows no bounds of ethics or morality. They feed off of death and brutality, pain and sorrow. They must amplify our fear in order to get us to comply to the unthinkable. And they must amp up all levels of media propaganda to spread misinformation, to keep us in compliance to these unthinkable programs that we're not supposed to find out about. Well, you're being given an opportunity to read the most concise source documents of any collection of documents written by these Luciferians that you could put your hands on. And you need to go to stopthecrime.net. You need to watch the documentary or download the document itself for the Iron Mountain Report. Now, the Iron Mountain Report was hatched in the 50s. A collection of experts met in the upstate New York at a nuclear facility, and they devised a plot to look at how the world could transition out of a time of a war economy and reality into a future of the golden age of peace. Now, definitions are exceedingly important. The golden age of peace is as defined by the controllers. Their peace is for us to be completely and absolutely subdued. And they plan and must eliminate a mass amount of the global population because there are too many of us to manage. Remember, they call us cattle. This is about herd management. There are too many of us, according to all of their documents, for their successful management. And on top of that, they're working on and have successfully created a transhumanism knockoff of humans. Our biological beings are being transformed. An excellent movie to watch to start understanding what is happening is the original movie of Dr. Moreau's Island, and understand how they've been blending the genes of animals and humans for decades and decades and decades. In the NASA war plan that we found on the NASA website, the topic of this war plan, again, you can download this from stopthecrime.net, is about cyborgs, robots, and eliminating humans. And in this document, again, this is the unthinkable, but this is to bring you into your reality so you'll know the level of resistance that you must put forth now. We are in a declared war here, right now, every minute in the United States. We are being slaughtered by a silent weapons system that is fingerprintless. We are being consumed and harvested by every aspect of corporate money and greed as they make us sick. Now, I know Vincent was reading some of the illnesses and symptoms that we're now getting as a result of these frequencies that are dicing and slicing our DNA. You must understand, and you can go to stopthecrime.net, again, right on the landing page. You're going to see a report. It says, for mass distribution, warning to all police, fire, and first responders. Your wireless communication devices use pulsed microwave radiation, and that affects the brain. Go to our website. Look at the link of what 5 police officers did about a year ago in Southern California, in Fulton, California, to a homeless, mentally ill homeless man. They ended up beating him to death. Watch it. Because the reason you need to understand is frequencies are altering our behavior. Now, this is not to say that those police are not fully culpable for what they did to this man. But I can tell you, we are going to have increased anger on the streets. This is a given. We're going to see violent behavior. They are altering our behavior. Very important to see on stopthecrime.net a newly located government document that we found on the White House website. This is going to show you the intention of frequencies to be used and amped up this month in September of 2013.
Deborah, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're going into another break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about microwave ovens. Just one little weapon. One little weapon. We'll be right back. Talking about silent weapons. And I think I'll wait till after the top of the hour to tell you about a microwave weapon. What I'm going to say, you're going to find absolutely fascinating and unbelievable. And it will tie just one small component of what Deborah Tavares has been saying here on this broadcast. But I want to share something with you. During one of the previous segments, Deborah, you were talking about, well, if I'm not doing anything wrong, it doesn't bother me. Now, I don't know how to say this other than the way I'm going to say it. We had a person involved with USA Prepares who had presented some seminars. And I heard him on the radio, on another radio broadcast, say, he was talking about drones. And he said, well, someone asked me about drones, and here's how I responded. Well, if I'm not doing anything wrong, or if I'm not doing anything wrong, they don't bother me. He has been removed from usaprepares.com for that one comment alone. Because that I consider disinformation. Look, class, if you're not doing anything wrong and you are being spied upon and you are being tracked and you haven't done anything wrong, that still is a problem. It's just like those police stops. When you go through those gauntlets and the person next to you says, well, look, it's okay. It's okay if they stop us because we're not doing anything wrong. No, it's not okay. It's not okay that they're stopping you because you haven't done anything wrong.
We are enemies of the state, Vincent, and everyone needs to remember that. And before I go further, I want to give out the website again, stopthecrime.net, and have everyone go to our solutions page, because everyone is going to need to combat the frequencies that are being absolutely filleted upon all of us from multiple layers of assaults. This is a silent weapons attack. Just like many people have purchased water filters to filter out the poisons and toxins that are being put intentionally into the water supply. You need to know, you must understand the next step of protection is to protect yourselves against frequencies. Not only do we have the cell phone towers, again, go to antennasearch.com, download the location of the cell phone towers and antennas nearest your homes, and keep that in mind. And understand, in order to reduce some of the frequencies that are coming into your homes, you're going to need to put screens, metal screens, on the outside of your windows. One of the reasons that they replaced metal screens that we had years ago with fiberglass is so that these frequencies could come in through our windows. They're low-pulsed frequencies. Again, go to the solutions page on stopthecrime.net. We talk about a variety of opportunities that you must consider now before they amplify this government frequency plan. This is targeting the United States. Again, it is on stopthecrime.net. It's flashing at the top of the homepage. And go and take a look at this document. It is a military-industrial attack upon us using radar and frequencies. Again, this is a silent weapons deployment. It's set to deploy in September of 2013. And this is all about psychotronic weapons for mass mind control. They want and are able now to control our specific thoughts, our emotions, and they can direct our physical actions. They've been doing this for many, many, many decades. There are hundreds of thousands of people globally that have been test subjects for these kinds of horrific attacks and torture by remote control using frequencies. Again, you need to go to our mind control section on stopthecrime.net and start educating yourself that actually these frequencies can create voice-to-skull conversations in your head. People think that they're going insane, and they're not. We need to become educated very quickly and support our neighbors that will and likely start telling you that they are starting to feel sick, they're getting tremors, they're not sleeping well through the night because they are intentionally jamming our immune system. This is all about mass murder, massive depopulation using the silent weapons system. And when
Deborah, hold that thought. Deborah, hold that thought. We're going into a top of the hour break. When we come back, Deborah's going to be with us for the second hour, and I'm going to tell you about a microwave oven weapon you won't believe.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
What a broadcast. Class, I really highly recommend that you share this broadcast with all friends and family. I'm not kidding. I'd like to ask those of you who are listening to make a copy of this broadcast. You have my permission to make a copy of this broadcast, put it on YouTube. Please do it. Please do it, and share this broadcast with friends and family. I'm going to have it on page 1 on the website to make it easy for you. It'll take me probably a half hour after the broadcast when all the links are ready. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? This is hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. With us is Deborah Tavares. And I said during the first hour that I would tell you about a microwave weapon. I'm going to try to say this very carefully. I will not tell you how to build it. It is so simple. I was telling our producer that the necessary materials to build this kind of a weapon you could get at any hardware store or home supply store. I'm not going to tell you how to build it. But I was at a gun show many, many years ago. And I was reading through some of the books and, the maintenance of rifles and the maintenance of pistols and how to accurize them and so forth. And there was a book on the table that talked about building a microwave weapon out of a microwave oven. Now, how many of you throw away microwave ovens? Timer doesn't work. The clock doesn't work. The turntable doesn't work. Well, suffice it to say that if you built one of these things, and I do not recommend that you do, these are extremely dangerous. I'll tell you how dangerous they are. If you took one of these things and aimed it at a bush in your front yard, let's say you had some landscaping, and you just aimed it and turned it on for a minute, you would kill that bush. Now, would it shrivel up and die right then and there? No. By the end of the week, that thing would be brown and dead. And you'd look at it and say, I wonder what happened. Maybe it didn't get enough water. Microwave radiation. That's the kind of thing that Deborah Tavares is talking about. She's not talking about you building one of these weapons. She's saying that they are out there, and they can kill from afar, and there's no fingerprint, there's no trace, there's not even a sound. Seriously. No projectile flying through the air, no breaking the sound barrier, no crack of the 5.56 or 2.23 round, no mortar shells, no explosions, absolutely silent and deadly. Deborah Tavares is with us. StopTheCrime.net. Deborah, please continue.
Actually, I want to also give out the phone number again. These are for people that need copies of the documents off of StopTheCrime.net. If you are unable to download them from a computer, you may call area code 707-586-9558. Again, 707-586-9558. That is to obtain a copy of the recommended source documents from our website. I must tell you what you were just talking about, microwave frequencies, and what we all face as an extinction plan for the United States and the global population for that matter, because the cell phone towers are being deployed just as the smart meters are. There's no mistake. They know exactly what these frequencies will do to us. And as a matter of fact, they know that when the system is fully in place, they will be able to excite artificial strokes, and people will be dying by mass numbers of heart attacks and strokes. It will become very dangerous to drive on our freeways because there will be increased traffic accidents. Notice how many cell phone towers are along all of our major interstates and all of the other types of wireless frequencies. Very important to understand that this system is a serious impairment to all of our brains and our performance. So as we're driving, particularly if we're using our cell phones in our vehicles, which can, by the way, be amped up, that large portions of the population in selected regions with these cell towers and with our smart meters on our homes, these levels of frequencies can be extended and wipe out large areas of our population. This is exactly what is planned for the United States. This is taking down a country without ever a bullet being fired. Now, when you look at this document that was found on the White House website, you realize that with the increased frequencies of this particular plot and scheme, it's only a 13-page document with a map. You're going to see how they're putting up a wireless frequency fence around the United States, which they're doing internally with all of the cell phone towers and the grid mesh network of the smart meters. But you will find that one of the scientists who weighed in on this document said that what would happen once this continues to be increased, which they're doing, is that it would create illnesses amongst children. And how it would work is this. Our children would start becoming very, very sick. We would have to take time off of work to stay with our sick children, many of which, he said, will die. And, of course, all of this requires lots of medications, time off work, and the rest of the population will become poor while we have just a very few people in power who are becoming very, very wealthy. On top of what that aspect of the increased frequencies through the specific White House targeting of us, the enemies of the state, they're also planning to strip the negative ions out of the oxygen molecules. This will increase depression. This will increase the ability to orchestrate organized gang stalking on us and electronic targeting of all of us, and an easier a way in which to create mass mind control. Remember, they want it all. They want our real estate, our properties. They want it. They want everything. They believe that they should control all energy resources, and everything is defined as an energy resource, even us. So understand, we are at war. When you get up in the morning, you've got to alert people. If you're driving your vehicles without having magnetic signs on your vehicles with websites and flyers in your car, we do banner hangs here in Northern California with boxes of flyers. We have people carrying banners on the weekends by shopping malls, passing out information. This is critical in order to create a safer neighborhood as this continues to amp up and as there is more confusion and chaos, as these source documents, read the New World Order Exposed document and understand what I'm talking about. And Vincent, right now I'm just going to diverse into the threat of the nuclear war and the chemicals and biologicals that we are claiming the Syrian government has used on its own people. What about us? Our government, our de facto government, is poisoning all of us. We have absolutely, it's insane to think that we would go in and stop a government from using chemicals and biologicals on its own people. I can tell you in the NASA war document, they tell us on page 43 that they will use a micro-sized dust in an aerosol, and when it's inhaled into our lungs, it will commit pathological missions. They say this is a completely new type of weapon, and it is illegal. They will use beam weapons on us, increasingly prevalent. This is in the NASA document, page 45. Who's behind this besides NASA? The U.S. Air Force. Again, the U.S. Air Force was behind the Silent Weapons Quiet Wars. DARPA, the CIA, the FBI, Southern Command. We have been taken. We have a rogue military operation. This does not mean that everybody working in these agencies are aware. Many of them have been compartmentalized, and they have absolutely no idea what they are doing and how they're contributing to the global takedown of humanity as we have known it. We are in a transhumanism agenda. Part of the overhead geoengineering spraying program is to spray nanofibers. All of us have nanofibers in our skin. Go to our website, toxicsky.org. Take a look at the Morgellons segment and the flyer and understand we all have Morgellons disease. What does this mean? Well, many people are finding that they're having open sores that will not heal. And out of these sores emit these synthetic fibers. This is the first protocol of wiring us up. All they need are the nanobots. Now, I know for many of you, this is sounding insane. Again, I've said earlier, this is insane. And it is so far out there with the levels of advanced science and technologies that as you hear this, you want to go back into your normalcy bias. You cannot. Look at the NASA war document. Read these source documents. Every single thing you are hearing me say is supported by government documents saying exactly what they're going to do to the global population and all of the Americans within the continental United States. For example, in the NASA war document on page 93, it says capture and torture Americans in living color on prime time, that they will foment terror attacks. They'll use biologicals and chemicals and take down our critical infrastructure. Now, again, this is very important to understand. In the New World Order Exposed document, again, that you need to download on stopthecrime.net, they talked about in 1969, when Dr. Dunnigan took notes, when a New World Order presenter by the name of Dr. Richard Day spoke to a class of about 80 doctors, and he talked about what they would expect in the future. He wanted them to be forewarned. He said they could not take notes or record this. Well, Dr. Dunnigan did take notes, and he wrote this document articulating what he heard that fateful day. And it's important for us to understand. He was told back in March of 1969 that they would use nukes in the United States to convince us and to put in place their new international political system, that they would use one or two that might be necessary in order to convince the holdouts against further nuclear wars throughout other parts of the world.
Deborah, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Going into another break. You heard during the break a commercial for freeze-dried food. The freeze-dried guy supports our mission here at usaprepares.com. He's been to the farm many times. He's been to the expos. He has never wavered. He has never said, Vinny, back off. Vinny, knock it off. He supports what we do. He supports the message. He's our friend. And he stands alongside of me. if you are considering freeze-dry food, please consider Freeze-Dry Guy, freezedryguy.com. Class, there's several things I'd like to comment on. I'm going to be very brief. Deborah Tavares talked about what they're doing to us. They're causing our children to be sick, causing us to take off time from work. Okay, let me talk about an extreme case. Autism. Autism is on the rise. Imagine this. Imagine what happens when you have a child with autism. Imagine how that can paralyze the entire family. You love the child, and the child requires constant supervision, constant attention. It saps the family of an ability to earn a living. That's just one little component. But to that family, it's massive. The effect is massive. And I'd like to talk about, for a second, a private conversation I had with Bert Bertonis. He's an electrical engineer. He designs cellular communications systems. He and I were talking off air, and he said, Vinny, cell phones, here's the problem. The problem is we are being irradiated with the electromagnetic radiation from these cell phones. And here is the answer of the communications companies. Well, if the cell phones have too many watts and we are killing ourselves, well, the answer is simple. More cell phone towers. More cell phone towers. Now, you think this is crazy, right? And so do I. Well, here's their logic. Well, if it requires more power from a cell phone to reach the tower, let's bring the towers closer. Let's have more of them so they don't need as much power. Now, on the surface, you might think that's a good idea. In reality, here's what's going to happen. They're going to have more towers, and then they're going to crank them up. Deborah, you're talking about nuking the United States. Please continue.
Yes, I was talking about the document, The New World Order Exposed 1969. Everyone needs to download it and read it, read the silent weapons, and take a look at the Iron Mountain Report to understand how they invented global warming by causing mass pollution. This is what this mass pollution with the overhead geoengineering is about. They're poisoning our soil, changing the pH, so that only Monsanto seeds will grow. This is why Monsanto and Bill Gates are part of the overhead geoengineering program. It's all linked up. And I can say to you, in the New World Order Exposed that I was just talking about prior to the break, Vincent, we were talking about the fact that in 1969 they talked about the possible likely need to detonate a couple of nukes in the United States so that it would convince us that this was a real threat of terror, which it is not. It's all being created. It is a false flag. A false flag means a false creation of reality to create the terror and the fear that will allow and require us to give up more of our sovereignty. Well, we have only shreds of sovereignty left, if there's anything left at all at this point. But I can say to you that they say in this New World Order Exposed document that people will be convinced that there is a genuine negotiation between hostile enemies, and they will finally come to the realization that peace is better than war. Now, again, peace is a totalitarian takeover of society, meaning total oppression of everything about us. And they're going to use frequencies, all right, as a large component of imprisoning us. But going on to this document, we will finally find that war will be obsolete because more people will die if big disputes end up in nuking one another. But they go on to say how it has been so important that we've sent our soldiers off to war. They say that hardships of war on soldiers are worth it because it's a reward they get for their warring. Another justification expressed for war was that many millions of casualties in World War II and World War I were necessary because had they not died, they would have continued to have babies by the millions upon millions, and we would already be overpopulated.
Hold that thought. Class, Deborah Tavares is with us, stopthecrime.net, stopthecrime.net. I'm going to give you the contact phone number. If you'd like to get some of these publications, there's a charge for them. It's the cost of printing them and sending them out to you. Minimal cost, 707-586-9558, 707-586-9558, or you can download them for free at stopthecrime.net. Deborah, we're talking about war reducing our tendency to overpopulate. Now, so does education, but the government does not trust us to not overpopulate. So the answer is war, and war is the current threat. And our Congress is right now publicly saying that we can be nuked right here in the United States, exactly what you're talking about. And so their answer is, because we can be nuked, we need to attack the atomic sites in Syria. So they have already planted the seed that we can be nuked. And they are trying their best to keep us at a heightened level of fear. We're talking about silent weapons. And let me just share with you just a few of the symptoms. If you think we're kidding about silent weapons, microwave radiation, here's some more of the symptoms. Do you have difficulty concentrating? Do you have headaches? Cataracts? How about respiratory problems? How's your reaction time? Is it slowing down? Do you have sleep disruption, insomnia? How about nightmares? How about anxiety? How about tension? How about, I don't want to talk about that. How about your pets? Are your pets getting a little bit edgy? Now, I brought these symptoms up last night at the meetup. And I'll tell you what, I think just about everybody there said yes, 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 yes to those symptoms, including the symptoms we talked about during the first hour. This document is downloadable from the website, stopthecrime.net, and I'll have links to all of this at USA Prepares, page 1, right after the broadcast. Deborah, please continue.
So I'm going to really fly. It's very important to understand a number of things. Right now here in Northern California, they're starting to have our Department of Health employees meet us to discuss the Affordable Health Care Act, the Obamacare, which is an absolute intention to implode our economy, as well as certainly not to offer health care. This is all about measuring our viability and our self-worth. The documents indicate that the international bankers, the Luciferians, interdimensionals, whatever you want to consider, these inbred psychopaths, they do not want a population over the age of 44. Why? Because that is when you go through midlife crisis, you start to question where you've been and where you're going. You're suddenly no longer as active in the consumerism that the Rand Corporation set up to change our habits. They've created a consumerism nation, a consumerism globe, so that we're constantly competing with our neighbors. All false realities. They've gotten us off the farms into these lab rat communities. That is all part of the Wildlands Project, with the intention to further create human reservations, just like we did with the Indians. Go to stopthecrime.net, take a look at these wildland projects. I interviewed Ted Turner a little over a year ago, and he talks about reducing the population by 95%. He is behind the Wildlands Project. He is one of the second largest private land holders in the United States. He is one of the many foundations behind stealing your ranches and your property. Make no mistake, the assault is multifaceted. It's, in fact, on every single front that you can possibly imagine. But I can tell you this, in the healthcare meetings that are planned here in a few days in Northern California, they tell us it's our opportunity for questions and answers, and that we can sign up. So do not sign up. And keep in mind, all these meetings are set up under the Delphi technique. They all have predetermined outcomes. In other words, you go to these meetings, they say they want public comment, but you leave scratching your head because they vote unanimously, for example, to put fluoride in your water supply, even though you've presented Harvard studies showing that it lowers IQ, and you leave wondering why on earth they're not looking at any of this. Well, I can tell you, they're predetermined outcomes. They want to poison every single thing, and our health departments are behind it. Here in Northern California, our health director came out of the Karolinska Institute that was set up by the Illuminati. It's funded by the World Bank. Bill Gates is a major contributor of it. Now, there are many good labs within the Karolinska Institute that are doing very good work. But the minute they come up on reasons why we should lower the microwave radiation frequencies and send a letter to the California Public Utility Commission telling them to stop the rollout of the smart meters immediately, those labs get shut down. Just as the labs were in 1990, the U.S. EPA wanted to classify microwaves and other electromagnetic fields as a Class B1 probable carcinogen. It was squashed by the White House, and the EPA was stripped of all of its radiation labs, and the key EPA scientists were all disciplined. Understand, this is a war. Understand, the attack is a silent war. It is a deadly war. It is making us sick. And while many of you that are listening right now are still able to mentally function and physically function, you must compensate for your neighbors who may already be sick. Do not get angry with them. They have not known. This is an intentional lack of knowledge. We have been consenting by lack of knowledge. This has been cleverly created. They tell us that they will win when they have created the diversion of our media. They say that it is only a matter of time before we catch on to these plans. The speed in which we can communicate our warnings to the public will largely depend upon how effective the elites have been at controlling the media, subverting education, and keeping the public distracted with matters of no real importance. So stop talking about football games. Stop talking about the frivolous conversation that the media is talking about. This whole Trayvon Martin thing is a race-baiting intention to divide us. Again, they're only able to win by our consent, creating fear and terror that we tremble under, false flags, which we tremble under and give ourselves up to this, and then by media disinformation. Listen to programs like this. Ban with us. We are all over the world. There are many, many millions of us now speaking out and learning the facts. Read the source documents. Get flyers out. Start getting out there and informing your neighbors, your friends, your families. If they think you're a tinfoil hat, move on. Many, many people will choose to stay in their illusion. They are in the conspiracy that has been conspired against them. Move into the reality. Get out of the matrix. Understand we are being poisoned. Our lives are being shortened. And when this new program that is posted on stopthecrime.net under the White House government document that says, realizing the full potential of government-held spectrum to spur economic growth, understand who the players are. The same experts are behind this that are behind the rollout of the global smart grid. The frequencies they understand will kill us. Again, we are enemies of the state. They are reducing the population, and they want to extract every single penny out of our dead and dying pockets as they make us so very, very ill. America simply would not be being taken down this way if they were not numbing and dumbing and stupefying us into absolute helplessness. So again, I cannot stress enough, understand where the cell phone towers are in your communities. Understand that they will amp these things up and they will wipe out areas. They will be able to wipe you down in your homes. Understand that they use these frequencies in Fallujah, Majave, when during the shock and awe war, when we saw the Iraqi soldiers emerging out of foxholes with white flags, it was not because they were surrendering to the hopeful idea that they could move to America. They were being beamed with microwave frequencies. They have the ability now to aim these frequencies at your head and cook your brains out of your head and leave the rest of your body intact. Understand the level of the sophistication and the technology that we are up against. Our guns are only going to be used for people that are in chaos and do not understand what is happening. And this is the only thing, because they have super soldiers. They have soldiers that are bred with animals that can reach into your chest and grab your heart out. Go and take a look at some of the links under stopthecrime.net where we have the NASA war document linked. Understand the level of sophistication. This is a big computer game to these psychopathic elites that are wanting absolute control. We're extras in a sci-fi movie script. What they have planned for us, again, they are leeches. They leech on our energy. The more fear, the more pain, the more sorrow. This is why they steal our children off the streets and use them for ritualistic satanic murders. They want children that have never had sex. They're pure. They kill them. They steal our children. The mass underpinnings of this entire global atrocity and evil are drugs and human trafficking and killing and murdering of our children. Watch the movie Oranges and Sunshine. Oranges and Sunshine. It's a real documentary of stealing of children out of the UK back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and taking them on ships to Australia, where they were used as slave labor and sex slaves for the Catholic Church. Understand this is real. Understand that there was an apology not that long ago for what they did to the lives of these people. Understand everything you are hearing is real. Understand you must engage fully. You must understand that, because our children looking at us right now will depend on what we do right now. They cannot see us lay down and just be murdered, which is what's happening. And remember, we were warned. In fact, the CIA director in 1981, William Casey, said, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American people believe is false." That is where we are.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Varos is with us, and we're talking about silent weapons. And you may be asking yourselves, why are the media not reporting this? Let me tell you, I know firsthand. She talked about fluoride. I exposed fluoride in the Springfield community, and I went on a non-stop campaign to get fluoride out of the water. I made all the calls. I got the runaround. So finally I decided, okay, we'll go for the number one guy, the city manager. We'll give out Greg Burris's phone number, 417-864-1001, non-stop. And we said, call him up. Tell him he's fired for poisoning us, killing us. And I had medical doctors, chemists on, researchers. It didn't matter. We could not get fluoride out of the water. Here's what happened. As a result, the largest television station in this marketplace, in the Ozarks, KY3, did not do a news report on the biggest preparedness expo in the country, the Get Prepared Expo, presented by USAPrepares.com. They didn't show up. I got removed from the air from one of the largest stations in Missouri. Effective radiated power of 97,000 watts. I got removed from that because I went after fluoride and I exposed the corruption. What I'm telling you is there are prices that are paid for the things that we do. This machinery is huge. Just try getting fluoride out of your water supply. It's almost impossible. Now, I'm not saying give up, but it's almost impossible. And what happens is if you're over the target and you've almost succeeded, they pull out the final resorts to shut you down. Deborah?
Well, I want to say about the intention of energy, and this is a quote right out of the U.S. Department of Energy. This is the final and ultimate goal, to not use energy. The most efficient energy is energy we do not generate. This is not a technology. It is a behavior modification or learning to live in a new reality. This is aiming for zero. No better way to reduce the population. Another very, very important document for everyone to look at is the Tavistock document, and it's an operation research manual as well. It expands the silent weapons system across the board with institutions. The Brookings Institute, all of our major universities have funding from the weaponized cartel that is absolutely mowing us down. It's like a huge lawnmower growing across the United States right now. And I can tell you that there's a quote, 1979, by McNamara, and he said, there is a single theme behind all of our work. We must reduce the population growth. Either we do it a nice way and using clean methods. Once population growth is out of control, it requires authoritarian government, even fascism, to reduce it. Civil war can help things, but it would have to be greatly expanded. To reduce population quickly, you have to pull all males into the fighting and kill significant numbers of fertile childbearing age females. Now, they talk about why they go into the villages and kill innocents. It's population reduction. It's not a mistake. We have the Phoenix operation that we send black ops through the CIA into villages overseas to kill and destabilize good people. This is happening. We are doing it. This is rogue. We have been taken. The United States of America is USA Inc. When I went to one of Al Gore's recent conversations about his new book, Future Earth, he talks about Earth Inc. So what is happening? They're creating a global brain through the NSA Massive Data Collection Center, and it's very important to understand the massiveness of the capabilities of this center. This is artificial intelligence. This is the control of every human being on the face of the planet with frequencies. Read all of the source documents on stopthecrime.net and dial 707-586-9558 to get a download copy of this if you cannot print them off. But I urge all of you to do nothing more than to read the Silent Weapons document, then the New World Order Exposed. Look at the documentary, The Iron Mountain Report, to understand that CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions is a scientific fraud. It was all invented. History is being rewritten. Our children are being taught.
Deborah, we are out of time. Let's do it again, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Deborah Tavares, stopthecrime.net. I'm Vin Finelli.